this very, very wonderful, wonderful Friday, the ninth, the 10th day. I'm confused. The ninth day of October, the overall 2020, dear listener, as we just thank God for this wonderful day and thank God for this wonderful year that we have had so far and all the good things that we've been able to see. No matter our situation, no matter our circumstance, I'm always positive and knowing that in all things we should be able to give thanks. And today, dear listener, I'll be talking about three very simple things. I'm actually talking about the three levels of emotional intimacy. The three levels of emotional intimacy. This is just again born from my experiences that I've had this week. Also, the misunderstanding of the word intimacy, and also the battles that I'm seeing many couples are facing today, because I'm experiencing so many couples now that are actually going through emotional divorce. They're actually going through emotional divorce, and I think maybe the week that comes I'll talk about how to know when you're emotionally disconnected. But many couples that I'm seeing now are battling emotional divorce, and they're always asking this particular question. They're asking, how did we get to a place, or how did we get to a particular season in our lives where I can no longer understand the person that I'm with, or I can no longer even understand. And this actually, I'm very interestingly, when we talk about emotional intimacy, it's also good to note that this reflection actually covers all kinds of relationships, not only those who are married. Also, it covers relationship between parents and their children as well, because emotional intimacy is the ability of two people to be together and to be connected, and to have a mutual emotional understanding and emotional safety, that I can be safe emotionally in your presence. Now, whenever you find, and I use the example of mainly couples, is that whenever you find that a couple has drifted apart over a period of time, or you find that it is easier for someone not to say what they feel, or it's easier for them not to open up about what they feel, then you begin to question: are we really together? And there are some exercises that I normally do that actually prove the fact that there are some things that have entered into our emotional space and emotional climate that end up pushing us further apart. And the question I like asking couples is this: is that, were you ever together? Were you ever together? Why do you assume you've drifted apart, and maybe actually you never were together? And it's very possible, dear listener, to find yourself that you actually assume that we have drifted apart, yet if you step back, you find you are never together in the first place. So that's what I'm talking about this wonderful morning. And remember, when I introduce this, there are three types of intimacy. There is physical intimacy, there is spiritual intimacy, and there is emotional intimacy. And remember, I've always said this, that sex is not intimacy. It is a way of expressing intimacy, but it is not intimacy in its own right. So at times I hear people talking about it in that context, but that is the wrong context. That sex is not intimacy. It is very different from that. It is actually a method or a way to communicate intimacy. So it is possible to have sex and not be intimate. That is very possible. So it is important to understand that when we talk about intimacy, that's what I'm saying, that this covers nearly every kind of relationship, especially emotional intimacy. I said there are three types: physical, which has its own three levels; there's emotional, has its three levels; and spiritual has got its own three levels. And this morning I'm talking about emotional intimacy and its three levels. Level number one, dear listener, is the mask stage. The mask stage. What is the mask stage? There used to be a saying very many years ago that anyone can pretend on a Saturday afternoon for 2 hours, but the real gorilla is locked away in a cage back at home. This was a context used mainly in dating, that someone can be before you and pretend and act like they are one thing, yet they are another thing. And this is what happens in most of our relationships now. That in the mask stage, I don't show my hand. I don't show exactly what is my emotional wiring. I don't show exactly what is my emotional thinking, or what am I feeling. You never really know who I am, but I am present. We will talk about the weather. We'll talk about football. We'll talk about politics. We'll talk about marriage. We'll talk about anything else. But the thing I don't show you is you will never know who I am. I present to you a picture of who I want you to think that I am. And that's the problem of the mask stage. In the mask stage, people actually do a few things. Number one, in the mask stage, people lie a lot. They lie a lot. They present, it's very easy for them to speak a lie to the person that they are with, because they don't want the truth to come out, because the truth will reveal who they are. Number two thing that is very common in the mask stage, dear listener, is the absence of trust. Trust is never there. You are with someone, you're having coffee, you're in the same house, you have 4 children, but they just don't trust you. Meaning that they will always pretend to be okay when they're not okay. They'll pretend to be happy when they're not happy. They'll pretend that, everything that they need to do, they will do, because I just don't trust you. Something also happens in the mask stage, dear listener, which is very, very, which many people tend to encounter, is there is absence of freedom. There is absence of freedom. People don't feel like they are who they are. And this is when you'll hear someone going to the bar, getting drunk, coming back home and showing another side you never saw. This is when you'll see people in the company of their parents, in the company of their friends, they are very different. But in the company they are with you, they are opposite, You find a son at home is very different. The friends know him very differently. You find there's a wife who the husband knows one way, but her friends know her in a different way. So when you see this person in a different social setup, you wonder what happened to them. I never see them laughing. I never see them cracking jokes, because, dear listener, you are in the mask phase. In the mask phase, I don't show you who I am. I show you who I think you will be comfortable with. I show you who I think you'll be comfortable with. And the mask stage, I have seen couples getting married in the mask stage. I've seen people getting married. That's why you hear someone saying so and so changed. They never changed. But you'll always say that because in the mask stage, we are very covered. We are very protected. We don't want people to see us for who we are. And secondly, we also present the person who we think can work. The second level of emotional intimacy. And the second level of emotional intimacy, dear listener, is the demand stage. The demand stage. What is the demand stage? This simply is that after the masks have been there for a while, after I have pretended that I don't, that maybe I am strong and I am not strong. Maybe I've pretended that I am able to overcome something, yet I'm not able. Over time now, in the relationship now, as it matures, it moves now to demands. Now, demands is where one person or both people begin now to push or want the other person to do something for them. But when we began, I was okay with you not maybe calling me. But now I have an issue when you don't call me. When we began, I had no issue if you did not listen to me. Now I am more disturbed at the fact that you don't listen to me. Now at the demand stage is where fights become very they become very they're the main thing that actually happens. They're the most predominant thing, because when fights begin to happen, it's because now I am asking of things from my partner that I never asked before. Or this is where you hear a child telling the parents, you don't love me anymore. You don't listen to me. No one ever listens to me, This is where you find that you begin to complain about things. Naturally, at the beginning of the relationship, you never complained about. They never bothered you in the very beginning. But at the demand stage, I'm beginning now to push. I'm beginning to put emotional pressure on someone who initially I never put pressure on them. I begin to say, you don't bother about my work, or when my father died, you didn't come for the funeral, or I begin to say, oh, you never gave me this, or the other time I was sad, you never listened to me. We begin to now look for things that naturally were never there. Now, this surprises many relationships, because at the very beginning, there were masks, and I was showing you that I was strong. I was showing you that I never really cared, I wasn't bothered. That is a mask stage. That was stage 1. Now stage 2, I'm moving to a place whereby now I'm being bothered. Now I'm being disturbed. Now I am demanding. I'm realizing you're in my life and there's a role you need to fill. So stop acting like you don't care. I need you to start caring. I need you to start listening. Now this is when you find that now tension begins, because I'm putting a demand on the relationship that initially, dear listener, was never there. But the goodness is that the relationship now is beginning to mature. Now you are beginning to mature. Now the level of intimacy is beginning to grow because you are beginning now to show our hand, because earlier on I was protecting myself. Now I'm beginning to tactfully ask for things. This is when you'd find that a wife will not tell the husband, and I'll use this example on the third stage. This is where a wife will tell the husband, will ask questions like, "Where are you? I didn't get married to stay in the house with the chairs. Where are you? We are not spending time together." Those are the questions that begin to come up because we are at a stage where I'm putting demands. Now it is different from stage 3. Stage 3 is vulnerability or emotional nakedness. Vulnerability or emotional nakedness. This is the third level and the highest level of emotional intimacy. This is the level where I can actually speak my heart and not be afraid that I'll be judged. It's the level where I can communicate freely. Communication is healthiest at this level of intimacy. Because at this level also, I know how to communicate. And I'm not afraid of being myself because I know that the person I'm in a relationship with, I am comfortable with them seeing my vulnerable side. I'm comfortable with them seeing my scars. This is where now, if I can compare with the example I just gave, in stage 3, it is where communication even changes, and the type of communication changes because it no longer has a demand. It actually has a need, and the need is not one that puts a form of burden, but it's an empowering need. Using the same example, is that in level 1, maybe if I use the example of a wife speaking to the husband, in level 1, which is a mask stage, a wife would want the husband's company, but she will not say a word. She'll act as though she's independent and she can do her own things. She can act as though she can do her, I am free, I can do my own things. I don't need your company. You go where you go. I'm independent, you're independent. That's stage 1. Stage 2 is, where are you? Who are you with? We are not spending time. That's stage 2. Those are demands. Stage 3 is, I need you, I miss you, I long for your company. There's the communication that comes in level 3 that shows more heart connection, shows that I am safe. I can tell my spouse I miss them. I can tell my spouse I am lonely. I can tell my spouse I need them, and I don't feel as though I am coming out weak. I don't feel as though I am showing weakness. But in fact, the relationship is healthier. Because when a man can come home and tell his wife what he feels, he can come home and say, I am actually stressed. I am overloaded by things. I'm feeling like I am worn out. I just want to rest. Or I don't know what's happening with my life. I'm confused. When you hear such communications, the relationship has reached the point where vulnerability or emotional nakedness has reached. So if you're told you're at level 1, this is when you can find your partner can actually walk out of the marriage and you never saw them walking away because they never said it. In level 1 relationship is where people can commit suicide and the person next to them never knew because there was never any form of emotional nakedness. So 3 levels of emotional intimacy. Level 1 is the mask stage, level 2 is the demand stage, and level 3, dear listener, is emotional nakedness of vulnerability, where you feel safe, you don't feel judged, there's freedom, and you can be yourself.